Hi guys, a lot of Tories defected to Reform UK and they brought their approaches to failure with them. What is that? Well, to blame everyone else when they don't get stuff done. So the new mayor for Greater Lincolnshire, Andrea Jenkyns, was interviewed by Reform UK friendly TalkTV about her plans to deal with asylum seekers being placed in houses. She got her blames in early, claiming that the problem is the Blob, civil servants and of course that terrible scourge, trade unions. Have a listen to this.
Other countries for these people to get residency.
I think actually, Kevin, it's the Blob as well, don't you? You know, it needs. I'd like to see a civil service like they have in the US, where the top levels, a new government will bring in their people, so there's no blocks. I mean, look how.
Sorry, you want to copy what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing, running roughshod over the Constitution. Deporting people without due process, cutting public services, imposing a massive cut, for example, when it comes to healthcare, Medicaid, $800 billion of a cut, which also involves cuts to services to provide housing for the most vulnerable, in order to fund a tax cut for the richest in society. I've been saying this for so long. What Donald Trump is doing, Reform UK want to do the same. They're a party of the rich for the rich. They don't care about the most vulnerable in society. They don't care about the working class. They care about the rich. They're there to push policies, to push governments in the direction of tax cuts for the rich, cuts to regulations that benefit the most corrupt in society.
Pretty got blocked, didn't she? With the civil servants and all the trade unions trying to stop.
This is the party that stood on the side of the trade unions, it seems, recently when it came to saving British steel. And now you have, well, the problem is the trade unions. The problem is the Blob. What Priti Patel was trying to do was illegal. And the civil service said, we can't go along with that.
The Rwanda deal, etc. Even on a micro level in Lincolnshire, I'm trying to fight back on not having diversity officers because I'm a meritocrat. The trade unions have already...
So she said, what I'm going to do before the election, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire all the diversity officers. Then it was discovered that there are none. The council said, the administration said, we don't actually have any. So she ended up with a bit of egg on her face. So what did she do? She turned around and said, well, we're not going to hire any. She's pathetic. 40,000 vote majority for this idiot.
He come out and said, if I dare try that, they're going to strike. And it's just...
Sorry, they're going to strike over what? I don't believe any of this is true. She's just spewing rubbish. She's first of all claimed, once again, that she would fire them. The council or the administration said we don't actually have any. And now she's claiming, well, I'm not going to hire any. And they're saying, well, we're going to go on strike unless you hire some. Does that make sense to anyone? Does anyone actually believe what she's saying is true?
They're so out of touch, aren't they?
So, yeah, we've been...
So I blame the Blob as well. I blame weak politicians. And I blame...
See, they're getting their excuses in early. She's not going to really be able to do anything, or she's not going to do anything that will actually help people. So she's just going to turn around and say, well, it's not my fault. We saw this when they were in power, when she was a Tory MP, when Boris Johnson was in charge, when Priti Patel, as she mentioned before, Suella Braverman, Liz Truss, the best example of the whole lot. Not my fault that I that I damaged the economy, that I drove up your mortgage rates, what you're paying for your mortgage. Not my fault. It's somebody else's. It's the Bank of England's fault. These are arsonists who blame the fire extinguisher or blame the fire brigade for the water damage. It's always somebody else's fault. They'll never take responsibility. And of course, what she's going to do is she's going to cut certain services and pretend this is a massive saving, when she should be focusing on what's really important when it comes to councils, and that's social care.
Blame the Blob. I blame the civil service, which, let's face it, it's every levels of the public sector which really needs shaking up.
Yeah, because all of you reform people, you triumphant reform people, brilliantly, Nigel Farage said...
This is why I call it reform-friendly TalkTV.
This week, none of my councils will be flying any flags except the Union Jack, the St George's Cross.
No, the Union flag, not the Union Jack. At least get your, get your flags right.
Or local county flags, local area flags, and also said that reform councillors would not be signing diversity and net zero agreements. I found it incredible that actually hitherto, no matter what colour you were voted in as a councillor around the country, the first thing you had to do was undergo diversity, DEI and net zero training.
I can give a quite a strong example how even solid politicians, it gets hold of them. When Jacob Rees-Mogg was Leader of the House, when I was an MP, he's apologised since, and Jacob's a friend, I've got a lot of respect for him, but the Blob got hold of him briefly because, and I think the Speaker at the time, I was one of the few MPs who wouldn't do the diversity training.
There's equality legislation that was put in some years ago that requires councils to enforce certain equality laws. That's an obligation of councils. So the council would have to do this. Councillors are expected to follow the rules. If you don't want to follow the rules, then don't be a councillor. What Farage is saying is he's tapping into this culture war. Oh, what they're doing is they're forcing our councillors to be, DEI. Although, most people don't even understand what that is. It's actually a different acronym in Britain. So he's using the American acronym in Britain and saying we're against that. Because it's the culture wars being imported from the US. We're against equality. We're against diversity. We're against, even though, probably Farage understands what these policies are, but your average voter doesn't. And certainly your average Reform UK voter doesn't. Well, Nigel says it's bad, then for me it's bad. I don't know what it is, but if Nigel believes it's bad, that's good enough for me. And Farage knows this. He's taken advantage of this approach for so many years. People don't understand what the EU is. Well, if Nigel Farage says it's bad, then that's good enough for me. I don't understand the ins and outs of immigration or the asylum process or what asylum seekers go through or the fact that they're not allowed to work. I don't understand all of these things. But if Nigel says it's bad, then that's good enough for me. And this is what they're going to get away with. They're going to focus on trivialities and ignore fundamentals. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to policies. They're going to focus on flags, or they're going to focus on rainbow crossings, or they're going to focus on trivialities for the councils instead of actually social care, policing, housing, things like this. It's going to be a very difficult few years with people like Andrea Jenkyns being in charge of anything, never mind Greater Lincolnshire.